Halstead Telephone Company and R&J Broadcasting Incorporated is proud to present to you this broadcast on YourLiveEvent.com.
And welcome in day 3 of our coverage here on the YourLiveEvent.com robotics show of the Great Northern Regional event here, courtesy of First. Of course, we are always powered by Enbridge. And when it comes to day 3, big day here, as it is the Alliance Selection Day. And of course, we're going to have the playoffs as well. Again, big-time matchups and big-time strategy coming into today. We'll talk to some of the competitors here today and get a chance to get a feel for what are their thoughts when it comes to the Alliance selections, as well as some of their favorite parts from this weekend as well. Talk with all of them coming up right after this, right here on the YourLiveEvent.com robotics show. I'm your host, Mac Robinson. We'll break it all down right here today. And joining me now, we have from 4198, the Robocats, we have Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, for you guys, you know, new year, new game at this point, first regional event. What have you seen from this year's event and from this year's game, especially compared to previous years?
I think one that's very different is there seems to be like one strategy this year. It's like, do your auto, you get the links, and then you balance. Where other years, it seems like there's very differing strategies, so it's hard to tell what the other team was going to do. But it's very much like stay on your sides, do your own thing, which I think is, it's new, it's different, I like it. It's a different way to do the game.
Well, and the other aspect, too, is that this year it feels like there's many different ways that you can go about scoring this year as well. So for you guys, have you guys tried to go more of a balanced approach, or has it been more of a, you know, specializing in one area to maybe boost your chance for an alliance there as well?
We tried to kind of do everything this year. We wanted to have a bot that can be one of the top bots. We haven't got this competition because we've had some things break and some challenges, but we can do cones and cubes, and we can also balance. So we try to do everything. I think we do everything very well.
And when it comes to some of those, you know, some of the repairs when it comes to the robot too, I feel like that's probably one of my favorite parts of it, is because of the fact that you have to think on the fly there as well. How has it been trying to adjust to that as well throughout this competition?
Repairing is definitely stressful. During our practice matches, our whole frame twisted, and we were all off center. So just going back to it's all stress and figuring out what's wrong. Usually it's not as severe as it looks when you're on the field, but just using what you have and using your resources and your teammates to just take the 10 minutes you have and fix your bot it's very fun. I like it. It's very stressful though.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure. But the other side of it too is that, you know, this type of event, you know, there's a lot of different teams that you'll be able to talk to that, you know, you might not necessarily be, familiar with, at least coming into it. You know, for you guys, are you guys trying to network as well, try to build up some of those relationships too?
I love talking to teams. We have a whole scouting team that during practice day goes around to every pit and talks to the teams, gives them buttons, gives them stuff, tries to get our name out there. And then before each match, our drive captain goes and talks to our alliance mates, as well as sometimes the opponent teams, just get a feel for strategy and figure out what we're going to do, so we have a more aligned alliance, so we know a strategy going forward. So I think it helps.
And, you know, with it being Alliance Selection Day, in your eyes, from what you've been able to see, what do you think is probably the most important aspect, you know, when it comes to selecting an alliance here today with this year's game?
I think what's really important is the ability to have fast cycle times. Be able to get a cone or cube and cycle it fast to the nodes and stuff. It's very important because a lot of the bots here are seeming more defense bots, so having a bot that can do cones and cubes really fast is definitely key for alliances.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And we're back here with the Semiconductor 72 of 57. And Mitchell, you know, when it comes to this whole weekend as a whole, obviously first regional event with the new game here. What have you what's been your big takeaways from this weekend, from the new game especially compared to last year?
I would say I don't think defense is as big of a role as last year because it was so tight going around the main station. This year with Swerve Drive, we don't have Swerve Drive, but a lot of teams can dodge easily. One thing that this year I think is a fairly big problem is tipping. There's a lot of teams out there that are very tippy because we're trying to have a small frame perimeter to be on that charge station at the end. And with tall robots, that creates a lot of tippiness. But our robot, we have not tipped at all yet, and our center of gravity is actually really low.
And the other thing, too, that I find really fascinating is that last year, scoring was pretty straightforward. Obviously, you put the ball in the basket, you start climbing, and you're good. But this year, there's so many different aspects and different ways that you can attack the scoring this year. For you, when it came to strategizing, how much did that play into it as well, and how have you guys really attacked the scoring system this year especially?
Yeah, so we have actually done really well scoring high goals. So both of our autonomous, whether we place and drive out of the community or we place and balance, both of them we place on the high goal. We think that's really good. Get them extra points, and then we just seem to score very well there. So during teleop, we score a link, or at least usually 2 links in the high during teleop, and with a couple other robots helping fill the lower ones, it seems to be that we can get a lot of points and fill our link requirement to get that ranking point.
And the other side of it too, obviously, with it being a regional event, there's a lot of teams that you might not necessarily see usually. So for you guys, have you guys been trying to talk with these other teams as well, kind of build that relationship up? Obviously with it being the selection day here for the alliances. So for you guys, have you guys been trying to build up those relationships with some of these teams that you might not necessarily be used to seeing?
Yeah, we've gone around and talked to some, and just helping out whenever a team might need a part, or they call out that they need help. Obviously, we've asked for parts too, and it goes both ways. Especially if you can get good relationships with people, then it helps you out towards the end.
And with it being such a massive event like this as well, I'm always interested to see, what's your favorite aspect of this type of a large-scale event, obviously with it being regionals?
Obviously, I'm the driver, and it's so fun when you're out there driving. But when we're not driving, we're in the pits thinking, strategizing, or I'm out there looking at other teams, watching, seeing what designs work good, what designs could be improved upon, and I think we have a good design that could make it.
All right, that is Mitchell of 7257 of the Semiconductors. Mitchell, thank you so much for the time.
Yep, thank you too.
Mac Robinson here with Team Chaotic 4539, and Josh and Jonathan. So far today, guys, obviously new game here, first regional event. What have been the biggest standouts that you've been able to see, when it comes to the differences between the games this year to last year?
Definitely a lot more tipping. There was maybe 1 or 2 tip overs an entire event last year, and this year it seems to be every other match at least.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. I think another thing is the bumper wise. Bumper wise is a big deal with the Charger. So last year you didn't really have to worry about your bumper because it was going upwards, but now you're climbing over something, so definitely have to worry about that bumper.
And then the other thing too is that this year, last year the scoring system, it was pretty straightforward with how you guys got your points up. This year there's a lot of different varieties of ways you guys can get your points up there as well. Has there been a focus for you guys where you guys are trying to specialize, or is it trying to balance across the board?
We're mainly going for the rank points, a nice balance of dealing with the charge station or scoring cubes and cones. Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, we like to balance it out. We like to try and go for the top row, obviously, because that's what we built our robot around, was trying to being able to get every node, every spot. Definitely also trying to get an auto for the charging, for the balancing. We've worked on that quite a bit. So if we can do that, and then we have our teammates going for the charging at the end, it works out all around.
And then the other side of this too is that with it being the first regional event, you getting a chance to get in front of other teams that you might not necessarily be used to being around. Have you guys been trying to network as well, trying to communicate with some of these different teams that maybe build up some of those relationships and potential alliances?
Definitely, for sure. I being new to this team, this is only my second year, I've definitely been getting around to the past teams that we've been friends with and then making friends with new friends.
Yeah, it is currently my 6th year, so I have a lot of friends on different teams, so it's good knowing them and having those people I can go to, see where they're at, see where we're at. It's also good when you have them on an alliance during your qualifications and towards the end during your finals. If you have those friends, you work well with those people down behind the glass. It works well.
And then the other side of it too is that, coming in, I was there in Alexandria when you guys were out there back in October, but, I call that an experience more than an event, but I feel like this is just cranked up to 11 more so when it comes to the energy coming into the room, period. And so for you guys, what are some of your favorite parts about these types of events, especially with it being regionals?
I think for me, it's getting to see all the teams that aren't just from our region coming out here to our regional. We got that Montana team coming out here, and that's just awesome to me.
I totally agree. I also like seeing everyone here. From COVID, we definitely missed a lot of that. I like just the vibe of the place, seeing all these people dancing and jamming around. It's nice.
I was going to say, seeing the mascots in the stands, I mean, it's just been a spectacle over there constantly, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then the one thing, too, as well, is that, not just the energy, around the participants, too, but also seeing the energy in the crowd there as well, and also having that type of an environment, too. Does that kind of pump you guys up a little bit, too, as you guys are getting ready to bring your robot out there as well?
Oh, definitely. It adds that extra level of awesome, here we go, all right, we're going to rock this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also like cheering for the other teams because we're all out here. It's competition, as they say. So it's nice cheering for other teams that and yeah, it's nice. Feels nice.
Well, and the other aspect of this too is that there's so many different people that can come together in robotics, especially with different roles that you guys are able to carve. But, for both of you guys, how'd you guys find your way into robotics, especially? Because I'm still mad that nobody told me about this back in high school. I missed out on it, man. So how'd you guys find your way into it?
Well, I've always been mechanical with my hands. I love working on stuff. And it was really our neighbor, I believe, told us about it. And my dad was like, hey, we should go check this out. So I did. I'm really introverted, so that first year I didn't really do much, but after that it just kind of exploded.
Yeah, so my grandpa met our lead mentor at the time. They became good friends, and I helped him with a fundraiser, and I've been here ever since and never left.
Guys, that's awesome. That's fantastic. You guys do a great job. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
The PRB Boosters are happy to sponsor coverage of the Tigers. Like them on Facebook for events and fundraisers. The PRB Boosters could use your help. Be part of great events and fundraisers, all built to give back and present more opportunities for the students of Pine River Backus schools. For information or to get started, email prboosterclub1.com. Meetings are the first Monday of every month at 6 p.m. at the school. Good luck, Tigers, from the PRB Boosters. Restock on food, fuel, and baits at locally owned Station 371 on Highway 371 in Pine River. Station 371 has bait and tackle, quality Cenex gasoline, off-road diesel, and is the only stop with #1 diesel. Make sure to stop by to wash off the sand and salt with their indoor car wash, open when the temp is at least 26 degrees. They'll hook you up with your fishing and hunting licenses too. Station 371 on Highway 371 in Pine River. Thank you for supporting local business.
And welcome back in to the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show. Joining me now, we have the Bog Bots. It's 6-4-5-3. And, when it comes down to what you've seen so far from this competition, obviously, different game from last year coming into this year. What are some of the differences that you've been able to see from last year's game comparatively to what you've seen so far here this weekend?
It's definitely a lot more difficult to, picking up and delivering. For one, the switch can be a little bit difficult, but I think it's a lot easier than having to do the climb that we did last year.
Well, and with that being said, too, I felt like last year the scoring was straightforward. Pretty straightforward. Obviously, getting the ball in the basket, and then you had to climb, like you mentioned. But this year, there's so many different varieties of ways that you can put up points. For in your eyes and with your team especially, have you guys tried to specialize in one particular way to potentially be more attractive when it comes to line selection time, or has that been something that you guys have been trying to be more balanced on throughout this time?
Well, what we were trying to do, we were trying to be able to pick up off the ground cubes and cones, and we were also supposed to have a intake of sorts, but because of mechanical issues and other issues with we had 2 Neo motors that were supposed to was supposed to bring up and down our main lifter, but because of the way that physics works. It didn't work. It was too much weight, and I don't know. It was just a super difficult build season.
Well, and with that being said, too, you have so many different teams that are here from, across the region, obviously, with it being regionals. But, for you guys, there's so many different creative ways that I've seen teams build up their robots this year. Have you guys maybe taken some notes, maybe think, maybe we can just implement something like this in our own build here?
Well, since we have a small team, it's kind of hard to do anything like specialized here, but if we really wanted to, we could have done something differently while we were here, but we decided, let's take it easy. We're kind of doing okay right now, and I don't know. We're just having fun. We're here to have fun, If we get the chance to get on a line selection, we get the chance,
Well, and with that being said, too, obviously, like I mentioned, so many teams that are here, too. Have you guys been trying to talk to these other different teams that have been here, maybe network a little bit, try to, build up some of those relationships, too?
Oh, well, we're kind of like a very solitary team. We don't like to go out and talk to other people, unless it's needed, of course, then we can, but we prefer to, stick it with our own team and do our own thing. And then we're not bothering other people and taking up their time.
No, I gotcha. And the other side of it, too, is that obviously, big events like this, I feel like it's underselling it to call it an event. It feels more like an experience at this point. So for you guys especially, or I guess for you in particular, what are some of your favorite aspects of these types of events with it being regional this year?
Well, the fact that, it's not really like going to like a basketball tournament. It's not the same thing. We're like a big, misfunctional family.
Well, and the other side, too, I'm always curious how people got into robotics in the first place, because I'm still mad nobody in high school, and I mean, the viewers know this, I keep on saying this over and over again, nobody in high school told me this, and I'm still mad about it. So, for you, how'd you find out about robotics, and how'd you get started?
Oh, well, how I found out about robotics, before I had switched to the school where I went and started in 7th grade, which is when I started robotics, because I was old enough. But before that, there was Lego robotics and in my old school. And I really wanted to do it, but I couldn't find the time. And I'm kind of sad that I didn't get the chance, because it would have really improved how well I could do here. But how I started, it was just people back then were more outgoing for our team. We had more people. We had more time to, recruit others. And I don't know. It was just by word of mouth that I got to join.
I gotcha. Well, hey, we're happy to have you here. Of course, Bog Bots 6453 joining me here, the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show.
Welcome back to the Your Live Events Robotics Show. I'm here with Team 8586. I'm so happy that your pit is right behind us, so I could check your bumper out real quick. So, with that being said, how has this competition been going for you guys?
Well, it's been going great, actually. We have been having small problems with code and parts, but we were getting along with other people, and they were fixing things with us, and it's been great.
All right, perfect. Anything that you've seen out on the, playing the game that has surprised you? Anything that your robot might be doing a little bit funky or maybe something that your robot's doing fantastic that you didn't see coming?
Well, we actually figured out that the arm was really top heavy, and so we accidentally bumped it off, and we've been doing it that way the whole time, and we just accidentally made a solution.
Accidentally made a solution? What was the solution, if you don't mind me asking?
We added a PVC pipe that broke, and then the PVC pipe broke, and it solved it.
Hey, you gotta love simple solutions, my man, absolutely. Now, this is day 3. This is the last day. What is the end goal for you and your team?
Mostly play defense and help the other people score, and maybe get a few ranking points.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. Have a good one, my man.
Here on day 3, joined now by the Bodacious Bulldog 7677. And Travis, for you guys, coming into today, obviously day 3, What have you seen so far from this year's game compared to previous years as well?
Well, I think the tipping. So I've seen our robots tipped over quite a bit. I've seen a whole bunch of other robots tipping because they try to go on that platform. There's a lot of top heavy with those claws trying to go high, and wherever they get on, they just fall over. I think that's one of the hardest things we've noticed.
And the one thing, too, that I kind of picked up on as well has been, the scoring seems to be a wide variety compared to last year where, last year it seemed pretty straightforward how you go and get your points up. Obviously, you had the climbing aspect. This year, there's a lot of different varieties that you can get into. And so for you guys, have you guys tried to specialize in any one area, or have you guys tried to have a nice balance of scoring across the board?
So I think it's kind of balanced and kind of uneven at the same time. So we got the balancing, and then we go high, medium, and low, but we only do cubes. So we don't do the cones, which I think might be worth one more point than the cubes are, but they're just harder to pick up. So I think it's the only thing that we haven't specialized in yet, but we're working on it.
And the other thing, Travis, too, is that with an event like this, obviously, it's Alliance selection day here on day 3. But for you guys, it's an opportunity to go ahead and talk with a lot of these different teams that are around here as well, with it being a regional event. So for you guys, do you guys try to network there as well and try to go ahead and build up some of those relationships as well?
So yeah, we have been running a walk around, networking with other teams, seeing what they do and how they do it and how they get sponsors and what works for them. So we've been trying to get help from other teams, and we'll see how it pans out.
And the other thing, too, is that with it being Alliance Selection Day here today, I'm just curious, for you guys, what would you guys be looking for, at least based on, the way that this game is being played? What do you think is the most important aspect, at least when it comes to building an alliance there as well?
So I think, the first one is playing good, and then the second one, you just got to be nice, network with teams. If you network teams and you be nice to them, they're like, oh, well, they're nice, they're good to work with, let's pick them. But also you got to have a good working robot, too. So it's like all around, you got to be good.
Well, and the other aspect of this, too, obviously, big event, obviously massive, so many different teams here as well. For you, what's your favorite part about these events? So when it's regionals and feels like that different energy in the building there as well.
So what was the question? I kind of did not pick up on it.
No, you're good. Basically, what's your favorite aspects of these types of events?
So I think just working around with teams, working with other teams, because you're working with your team all year round, and then you come here and you're working with different other teams. I think big one is teamwork. So you're not going to be able to win one match by yourself. It's a team event. So you got to make sure that you're working with other teams, working good, communicating, make sure you're not doing your own thing. I think my favorite thing is communicating, working with other teams.
All right, awesome, Travis. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
As Travis from 7677, the Bodacious Bulldogs.
This year, Schrupp Excavating is celebrating 40 years of digging it right. With this milestone year, Schrupp Excavating wants to thank all of their past, current, and future employees and customers. They appreciate all you've done to help Schrupp Excavating become one of the most trusted companies in the Lakes area. For any excavation project, Schrupp Excavating will have your project done right and on time, serving Pine River, Bacchus, Pequot Lakes, and all the surrounding communities. Schrupp Excavating LLC, online at schruppexcavating.com.
Pequot Manufacturing, a thriving precision manufacturing plant, is 41 years strong and proud to support our local robotics teams. Our focus and success is based on the latest automation and robotic technologies for machining and fabricating components, serving a wide range of industries nationally. Pequot Manufacturing invests in career development through education and progression, creating challenging and rewarding careers for committed and motivated CNC machinists, fabricators, and engineers. Find out more at pequottool.com. Pequot Manufacturing. We don't just meet expectations, we exceed them.
Joining me now, we have the Cyber Tigers of 4663. Wyatt, guys, for when it comes to, this event especially, I'm always interested to see how the year to year, how the games translate. But this year, very different game from last year. And Wyatt, I'll start with you. What have been the biggest differences that you've been able to see from last year's game coming into this one?
Well, one of the biggest differences I saw was there's not really like a climbing aspect to this game. I mean, there's the charge station, which is the climb, but there's no like bar that you have to hang on or, as we saw last year, swing from each time. But that's kind of the main difference that I saw from this year. Paul?
Yeah, I'm on the same page there with that. And also, it's nice to not have a ball this year for now. I think the third game, like now, it was like 3 games now without we had a ball, and now there's one without, so that's always nice too.
Oh, what I kind of noticed that's different from last year is this year there seems to be a lot more dexterity involved in the game. Versus last year you could kind of just have like a flywheel intake and a shooter, but this year you need to like basically build a robotic arm. Although like last year climbing did take some, but now there's a lot more articulation involved in the game with grabbing the cubes and cones and trying to score them in the different spots.
Okay. And Carl, I'll start with you on this one too, because last year it felt like it was very straightforward with how you go about scoring. Obviously, put the ball in the basket. Then, like you mentioned the climbing aspect. This year, there's a lot more strategy involved, and there's a lot more different ways that you can attack it. So, Carl, I'll start with you. When it comes to this year's game, when it comes to that strategy, if it were up to you, what are you prioritizing first? I guess when it comes to this year.
Yeah. So we have Mechanum drive on our robot, so we are a little bit slippery on the charging station. So as far as like auto and just during the game, we're more focused on scoring game pieces on that top row, because with our arm we are able to reach that top row relatively easily. And with our grabber, we have free floating wheels on our grabber that allow us to orient the cones and put them up there. So then that's really helped us with reaching that top row, and we feel that our cycle time is pretty fast.
Yeah, to add on to Carl there, one thing that we like to especially do is we'll like place cubes during auto, so that way during the teleop we're able to focus on cones since there's more cones up there. It's been a pretty effective strategy for us, that's for sure, trying our best to keep as many links as we can. Additionally, we'd have to, sometimes during these qualifying matches, maybe score on a lower level, but it gets us a link, which is arguably more important than getting the ranking points in that match for sure.
Yeah, kind of going off of what Paul said, since the lower rungs are really meant to get the ranking points during the qualifying matches, maybe later in the playoffs we'll see a lot more teams start going for the higher rung and the mid rung. But yeah, as we mentioned strategy earlier, it's not just about strategizing with your teammates and figuring out, okay, you're going to go here, we're going to prioritize here and whatnot, but it's also kind of figuring out what works best for our robot too, because right now, one of our better strategies for cycling really fast is going from our grid system over to our human player and having our robot ride the wall up into it, that way it can get a perfect... it can get aligned easily, and that way I can slide the thing over the square that cone or over to where they need to be without them having to move, and then I just tell them to move closer or whatnot.
And the other aspect of it too is that this is obviously a major event with it being regional. You get a lot of teams that you're not used to seeing quite a bit, and so for all of you guys, getting a chance to see these different teams, you guys get a chance to go out and maybe introduce yourselves, everything like that, market yourselves up a little bit when it comes to potential alliances, whether it be having somebody pick you or you picking somebody in an alliance as well. And Paul, I'll start with you.
Oh yeah, I know you're exactly right with that. These events are great because you get to see teams that you saw last year or maybe even a few years ago that you didn't see last year, as well as we're fortunate enough to be able to go to 2 events each season, and seeing the progression in each robot from the first regional we're with them to the second one is also just a really exciting thing to see. We saw that a bunch last year. I'm looking forward to it this year, seeing if we're ever going to maybe see robots capable of doing like a perfect score in this game here.
So obviously we go to 2 regionals this year and last year, so it's nice to see that at the beginning. Sorry, this is Logan.
Logan also from Cyber Tigers, so we're good. Another appearance.
Okay. So yeah, with going to 2 regionals, we get to see like the the competition season kind of at the end. We get to see them from like week 2 at this event, and then week 5 later at
the North Star Regional.
Yeah.
That's been moved now, so it's...
So we've been going to 10,000 Lakes.
We got 10,000 Lakes later this year.
Yeah, so it's...
What I kind of like about coming here and seeing all the different teams is you kind of get to connect with people that have the same interests as you, versus like we're kind of from a relatively small school, so there's not a whole lot of people besides us that are kind of into this stuff. So it's cool to be able to see, go to another team's pits and be like, oh, you also have a 3D printer. What have you been doing that works and what doesn't? Or you're also into building robots and mechanisms and all this stuff. And you can kind of see what they did and what works and what doesn't. And it kind of helps you improve what you've done.
And the last question I'll ask you guys here as well, kind of going off that a little bit. This is a regional event. And I almost feel like calling it an event is underselling it. It feels more like an experience at this point. And you have so many different teams. And so at that point, for you guys, what are some of your favorite aspects of just the regional event like this as a whole? And just what are some of your favorite parts about it?
Well, one of my favorite parts is it kind of takes me back to when I first started this. I didn't understand how a build season was going to work, or how a whole season was going to come together. But going to a regional, it all made sense, and how it there's the field, there's the fans, and then there's the pit area, and how everybody works together and cheering for your team. And then you go and play your team in the next game. So it's really coming together and figuring out, this is what I want to do. This is why I do this.
For me, I really like the fact that this whole event, it's just a giant STEM spectacle, really. And you get here and, similar to Wyatt, when I went to my first regional, I wasn't sure what to expect. And then I got here and I was like, oh my gosh, you have these large crowds that are cheering, there are chants going on, giant signs, mascots dancing for hours on end. And it's one of my favorite things, just kind of just see all the just incredible passion that everyone brings to these events, or better, as you word it, better the experience, and really it just makes for a great time and something truly that I'll cherish when I look back at my high school career.
What I really like about the events also is being able to see all the different robots and what they did to solve the same problem, because we only have so many ideas. We can sit in our workshop and come up with the one specific way, but it's cool to see we kind of thought about doing that. Let's see how theirs work. See how that idea would have went. Or you can see the good teams, what they're doing, and you're why didn't we think of that? Or, yeah.
Well, that is the Cyber Tigers 4663. Wyatt, Paul, Carl, thank you guys so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, nice talking to you.
Thanks for having us.
And welcome back. We are joined now by 5172, the Gators. And Quinn, for you so far this weekend, obviously, first regional event when it comes to the new game this year. What are the biggest differences that you've seen when it comes to last year's game coming into this year?
A lot of the robots, they changed a lot. You can see all kinds of different designs. Last year was mainly just copy and paste pretty much. So a lot more diversity.
And with that being said, too, what are some of the favorite design quirks that you've seen from some of these different teams throughout this weekend?
7028, definitely, because they can shoot cones.
Okay, yeah, and they stood out, too. I noticed that, too. I think that's really interesting. And, for you guys as well, have you guys noticed anything that you guys decide, maybe we can implement that in some kind of facet for you guys?
We haven't really noticed anything worth to change to, but we're going to continue working on our design and hopefully get it working for our next regional.
And the other side of it, too, is that with it being, the Alliance Selection Day here today, I'm always curious, what's an aspect that you in particular that you would be looking for if you were deciding an alliance?
If I was deciding an alliance, I would definitely look for compatibility and how they are to work with, because some teams are just really hard to work with. They shout, they yell. So, yeah.
And with that being said, too, regional event, a lot of teams that you might not necessarily be used to seeing. So with that being said, have you guys gone out, talked to some of these teams, and tried to build some of those relationships up as well?
Yes, we have a lot of relationships with different teams, like 876 out of Hatton Northwood, Team 2883 Fred from Moore Road. We're huge partners with them.
And then, for you as well, this is a regional event. I almost feel like it's doing it a disservice to call it an event. It feels more like an experience at this point. So for you in particular, what's your favorite aspect of regionals? And, what are some of your favorite parts about an event like this on this kind of a scale?
regionals, I love to see teams overcoming obstacles, like having something break during match and then watching them be able to fix it. I love seeing that.
All right, Quinn. Well, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Quinn of 5172 of the Gators. Thank you for joining me. Joining me now, we have the Tiger Bots here, of course, 2509. Got Sam and Matt. And, for you guys, just starting things out, obviously, first regional event of the new game this year. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen from this year to years prior?
Most years prior, we're doing shooting things, got balls, discs, literally anything but cones and cubes. So it's quite a change. We got a grabber now, almost always shooters. So a little bit of a different design challenge for this one. So yeah.
Typically, we have to climb, and this year there's no climbing.
Yeah, it must be nice too to not have to worry about that aspect as well. But
that's a more exciting aspect. It's fun to see them all go up and see them fall, especially. But yeah, I can't really talk about that one though. So yeah.
Well, the other aspect of it too is that last year's game, it felt like the way that you go ahead and put points up was pretty straightforward. Obviously, put the ball in the basket, you go ahead and start climbing as well. But for you guys this year, obviously, there's many different ways and many different avenues that you can reach getting those points up there as well. For you guys, have you guys tried to go for more of a balanced approach, or has it been more of a trying to specialize and make sure that you guys stand out in that way as well?
So we haven't really tried to specialize in anything, just be really good at almost everything, which is I assume what everyone tries to do, but we try to a little bit harder, I guess, because we usually balance at the start of a match and try to get it at the end. But if you got to get those links, then that's what we got to do at the end of the day. But yeah, we got to shoot across the field to get as much as we can. But how it ends up, who knows? So yeah.
You summed up that good.
Yeah.
Well, and when it comes to an event like this, obviously, there's a lot of creativity in the room. Many different teams that you might not necessarily be used to seeing, and especially with those different avenues to score, you get many different ways to build up your robots. What, in your eyes, what have you guys seen when it comes to build design that really has caught your eye from some of these other teams?
So the best design that I've seen is what's called a toaster bot. So they just suck it in like a rectangle, and they take it from the one player shoot. And that's just the best because they just line up and they shoot across, man. It's great. Yeah, usually it's not that great, but this year it really changed the game. So yeah, really unique game this year. So
having the swerve drive helps them maneuver really well also.
Yeah, and when it comes to Alliance Selection Day here today, I'm curious, for both of you guys, what do you guys think is the most important aspect to look for when you're trying to build an alliance here as well?
Building alliance is about seeing where your weaknesses are and seeing who can fill that hole for us, because we can't really do cubes very well. That's what we cannot do. So finding someone that can really well is really important to getting links and make sure we can score real high.
So probably honestly someone who can bounce with multiple robots on it at a time to get more points racked up with that.
Interesting. And the other side of it too is that an event like this, like I mentioned, so many different teams that you might not necessarily be used to seeing. Do you guys try to go out and try to network with them as well as trying to get your face out there as well, talk with all these different teams and try to build that relationship up there as well when it comes to alliance selection?
Yeah, we try to do as best we can, but we got a small team here today because it's so far away. We can't really bring everybody, but yeah, we get out as much as we can, and yeah, we just try and see who's good, who's bad, and who's
mediocre.
Mediocre, yeah, and who fits us well. So yeah, it's a hard thing to do, but I think we got it. So yeah.
And one other aspect too is that obviously an event like this, I feel like calling it an event is almost underselling it to an extent. It feels more like an experience. And so for you guys, what are some of your favorite aspects of an event like regionals?
Teamwork for sure, because we got to go with other teams, see what they want to do, and we got to come to a compromise every time, every match, just to see how we can play it well, and make sure we get the most points and rank as high as we can. It's really fun, because we got to make sure that you're compatible with everybody, but you got to weed out the ones that aren't. So it's a hard thing to do, for sure.
Coming together and seeing how everyone else decided to tackle the same problem we faced.
Interesting. And the other side of it too for you guys too, I'm always curious how people got into robotics because I'm still mad that nobody told me about it when I was your guys' age. So, for you guys, how'd you guys find out about it, and how long you been at it when it comes to robotics?
I found out through my brother because I had to come to these competitions, so I figured I might as well go when I can. I've been on all 4 years, so I'm a senior now. I've been, all 4 years of high school, so yeah, it's pretty great. Fun thing.
So I discovered FTC in the middle school from my older brother. Then I came to the high school, and I had to take a 2-year break though due to COVID, and I enjoyed it, so I just stayed with it beyond that.
And I got to ask you guys then at that point, you guys have older siblings in it. Does that give you guys more of an advantage when you guys actually got into it, where you can finally do what you wanted to do when you were in the stands watching it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an advantage, but it's really not, because usually you don't do the same thing as they do. You want to be different, so you can't pick the ones that they did. So you get a different field of view, different part of the challenge every year. So it's great, getting from different aspects. So yeah.
You have more of an understanding of what's going on when you had an older sibling in it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for the time at 2509, the Tiger Bots of Hutchinson. Appreciate you guys taking the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Let's get real. Get ready for a place that's big enough to grow and small enough to care. The University of Minnesota Crookston offers more than 35 majors, minors, and certificates. Earn a University of Minnesota degree, where you can make a difference in a close-knit community. Faculty become friends, and friends feel like family. You don't need a big city, just big dreams. The University of Minnesota Crookston. Real, hands-on, and will get you ready for anything.
My name is Jared, born and raised in Minnesota, and I'm a project director at Enbridge. Enbridge is more than a pipeline company. It's a company participating in renewable energy projects in Minnesota and abroad, and I'm really proud to be working here.
We believe a cleaner energy future is achievable. For over 20 years, we've been early adopters of renewable energy, and we're proudly committed to net zero emissions by 2050. To hear more from Jared, visit enbridge.com/Jared. That's Jerrid.
Joining me now, we got the MinuteBots, as we have Hadley, Nick, and Gabe. And for all of you guys, obviously new game coming in, first regional event with it. What are the biggest differences that you guys have really seen and picked up on, throughout this entire weekend?
Well, I've just seen a lot more action in a lot of the matches. People are taking things, of course, a lot more seriously. We had a week 0 event, and not a lot of teams had any autos or anything going on there. But it's just next level, serious. Everyone's taking it up a notch.
I would say that a lot of robots have sometimes fewer capabilities than others, but a really good team can kind of make up for that and try and work around by coordinating before the match.
Yeah, I've noticed that there's some really, really high scoring matches, and then also there's a lot of robots who are capable of doing everything, all the parts of the game, instead of robots who specialize in a certain part of the game, which is really cool to see.
Well, and with that being said, too, the scoring aspect this year. Last year, it felt pretty straightforward. This year, there's so many different aspects to, attacking the scoring this year. Has there been any, focus that you guys have had when it came to that, or have you guys tried to play it pretty balanced for the most part here?
Yeah, I think we've definitely have our strengths and our focuses when it just comes down to the matches. We've definitely been feeling that out a lot more. Cones have really been our strong suit, scoring high, and then also balancing in the end. We really focused on getting that down so that we could bring it into the matches.
Yeah, I think we mostly just try and specialize in cones, and despite having mechanisms, we've been really well able to get onto the charging station, which is great. We have a very powerful robot, and I think we can do great things.
I would have to echo everything they said, especially cones, high. That's been most of what we've been doing so far, and we have had phenomenal opportunities to work with a lot of great teams who can complement us. Even though it is pretty straightforward in terms of how you score. How you score on the grid and stuff, but we've had a lot of great teams to work with us.
And, with it being regional, is you get a lot of teams that you might not have necessarily seen previously, and a lot of interesting designs and a lot of interesting design choices. In your guys' eyes, what have been some of your favorite choices that you've seen from other teams, coming into an event like this?
Yeah, we just played with a team who has an extending arm, but it's more of like a 3-side rectangle type situation. Never would have pictured that when we're prototyping and stuff like that, but seeing it in action, it's brilliant design, so that was really cool to see.
Yeah, I know a lot of teams, rather than just clamping objects, they have special grabbers that have wheels on them that suck in cones and cubes. I think that's a great advantage, and I'm surprised we didn't think about it, and so surprised that 90% of the teams have those.
I've seen a lot of bots that don't really have mechanisms to score on the high rungs, but they're still incredibly helpful because they can just run pieces over really, really quick. And that's something interesting, I guess, that we hadn't thought about in the preseason, was just bots like that really, really, really try and complement their teammates.
And then the other side of it too, with so many teams here as well, it's an opportunity to network a little bit, talk to some of these different teams for alliances. So for you guys, did you guys take that time to also go out, talk with these other teams, and even also see, hey, you know what, who might work with us and who might we work well with as well?
Yeah, I know we have a lot of great people on our team who do that. I'm not one of those people, but I know we do a lot of talking with other teams.
Oh, I'm also not one of those people. It's usually Hadley. She does a great job. She goes over at all 3 teams and she figures out what we're going to do before the game. It's very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's what's so special about Burst, is that you really do get the chance to work with a multitude of teams, and just before matches, being able to strategize with each team is really cool. Yeah, we've been able to go to each pit and then talk to them and strategize. Everyone's been really willing to group up, have a huddle before our matches, and just talk about what we're strategizing. And then also just meeting teams. Everyone's so kind and so nice to just hang out during in between matches. So that's really cool.
And then last question for you guys too, but with it being Alliance Selection Day here as well, I'm curious, for each of you guys, what's an individual aspect that you would look for and you would value in other teams as well?
Yeah, well, building off of the last point, obviously seeing the stats, seeing the strengths is amazing and really helpful when it comes to picking teams and deciding who we'd like to be on an alliance with. But also just the way we work together is the most important to us, because if it's a team that there's no chemistry there, it's not going to work out in the finals. So definitely just the cohesiveness of the teams is really amazing.
I would want a team with very high mobility that can transport game pieces, because our robot is designed almost perfectly to score in every single area. The problem is sometimes our wheels and our speed just can't keep up with other robots that are in the way. So it's kind of difficult sometimes also with depth perception to get the cone from all the way across the field. So if we have a fast enough robot that's smart enough to be able to go back and forth and support us, I think we'd be able to do great things.
Something specific I think would be the prioritization of cones, or cubes, I'm so sorry, because we do cones really well. We struggle a little more with cubes, but when you have teams that can get those cubes, and any object, of course, at the high cycle times, I think that is, the best compliment to our robot.
All right, that is the MinuteBots of 4536. Guys, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Joining me now, we have the Pyr Robotics, of course, 877. And guys, so far here this weekend, obviously, first regional event of the new game here this year. What are some of the differences that all of you guys have been able to notice, especially from last year's game coming into this year's game?
I'd say it's probably the microphone. I'd say it's probably that we have cubes and cones. Usually we have the balls, and I think that's probably one of the main differences from the other years.
Okay.
This year we only have the balance on a thing for the end game, on the charge station for the end game, whereas last year, usually we have the climb. So that's another big difference between this game and last year's game.
And then the other side of this as well, obviously, you have the different aspects. Obviously, you mentioned last year's game felt pretty straightforward with the way that you guys put up points, but this year there's different facets to the way that you're able to score, different ways that you guys are able to score. have you guys been trying to have more of a balanced approach, or have you guys tried to specialize in any one way, in any one approach to try to score this year?
Well, right now, because of the way our robot is, we're a lot smaller. We can't get anything, like we can't go up to the mid rung or the high rung, where we're only the floor. So that limits us on what we can do, but our roles change each game. Like one game we're a shuttle bot, we deliver pieces to our teammates that can place in those higher rungs. And then other games, we're placing on the bottom. Then where you go up the balance, we help other robots balance sometimes. Other times we're blast up onto the balance. So our robot's fairly universal. It's just the only thing that we can't do is place on those higher rungs.
Okay. And the other side of this too, as well for you guys, this is a regional event, obviously. So many different teams that you might not necessarily be used to, playing with, cooperating with. Do you guys go ahead and try to talk to these other teams and try to network yourselves out there as well? Try to build those relationships too?
Yeah, so before every match, we go talk to the teams to talk strategy. We get to know their robot, we get to know what they do, what they can and can't do. We communicate with the teams, we see how they behave, first impressions, you get that first impression in the first 30 seconds of meeting someone. So knowing how they act is a big part of communicating and getting to know other people too.
Now, the other side of it is that when it comes to this type of an event, obviously it's regionals as well, but I almost feel like calling it an event is kind of not doing it enough justice, where I feel it's more like an experience and having that kind of electricity. For each one of you guys, what's your favorite part, or what are some of your favorite parts and aspects of, an event like this?
Well, one of my favorite aspects is almost everyone here is willing to help you. Like Devils Lake's robot, they weren't even working, they didn't have any programming when they came into this match. And I've seen like 8 different teams in their pit trying to get that robot working. So, that's just how helpful everyone can be at these events is really cool.
Yeah, it's really nice how other people are willing to help. We went to scouting, me and my other teammates, and we got to see other robots that weren't able to compete at all during practice matches. So we get to see other teams also coming to help them.
What are some of your favorite aspects of a regional event like this one, obviously having such a big scale?
Yeah, it's definitely being able to interact with the other teams. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. And then one final question for you guys, because I'm always interested. Still mad I never got a chance to actually do this while I was in high school when I was your guys' age. So for you guys, how'd you guys get involved in this, and how'd you guys hear about robotics?
Well, I heard it through. Well, the coach is a friend of my mom's. And when I was always interested in mechanical things, so my mom got me in touch with the coach, and the coach got me into this team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, my brother always went to robotics, and I was always interested in, I went to the smaller leagues, with Lego robotics and stuff. And I was kind of always interested in this stuff, so after my brother was in college, then I went and joined.
That's awesome.
Well, I had just moved into the school, and my parents were like, well, you have to do something in school, enroll in something. I was like, okay, I'll just find something to enroll in. And I was like, ooh, robotics sounds interesting. So I joined.
That's awesome.
I'm in the same boat as Jacob. My brother was in it, and I was in First Lego League as well, which is the lower down to this. So my brother's been in it for a while, and I was like, well, at this point I might as well. My younger sister is in it as well, so whole family's gone through it.
All right, well guys, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm joined now by Team 2470 here, of course, Team Bjorg. And, for you guys, coming into an event like this, obviously, first regional match of the year, for you guys, what have you really seen that have been a major difference when it comes to, this event compared to, previous years as well?
It's definitely been the amount of robots that tipped over. in my robotics experience, I've never seen this many robots tip over in one regional. I think it's just because everyone has such a high center of mass, but it's still been a surprise, and it's fun to watch though.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like people going into it were kind of thinking, oh, it's just a balance board. It shouldn't be that hard without the idea of their robot tipping. Because last year when it was just, the monkey bars, teams were always worried about if their robot was going to actually fall down. But this year teams were kind of not thinking about the tipping over at all. So I think that's why a lot of teams have been tipping over recently.
Overall, I think people are more reckless this year because you can be. It's small pieces on the ground relative to the balls from last year. So it's this idea that you're not going to fall and then you just topple right over.
Well, and the other aspect, too, is that, last year the scoring system seemed pretty straightforward. And obviously you put the ball in the basket, then you would have your climbing aspect. But this year it feels like there's so many different ways that you can go about attacking the scoring method this year. So for you guys, what's the strategy behind some of that, at least this year, when it came to, your guys' build in particular, and how you guys have been able to see that kind of evolve as this event's kind of come along?
Yeah, so when we were originally looking at the game, we kind of decided that we wanted to be a good cycler bot that can get the high pieces, because that was just the most point you could get links with us getting both cones and cubes. That was another decision that we made. And that goes along with the charge station at the end wasn't really one of our main concerns, because of course it's just, you don't have to have any complex mechanism in your robot, you just have to have a drive, which is, I guess, another reason why we chose Swerve. Because if you do a Mechanum drive, then it can slide off the thing pretty easily and get pushed around. But if you do Swerve drive, you can have a lock on the charge station in order to actually get on there for more points and hopefully for a dock. And then it also goes into the length and width of the robot, choosing the dimensions, so you might be able to get 3 robots on the dock as well.
I do know, in terms of strategy, one thing we try to make sure is to always give in mind links, because that gives us a bonus 10 points, I'm pretty sure, and that really helps a lot. So a big thing is just making sure that our robot is, diverse, kind of like what Logan was saying in terms of what it can do, because we want to make sure that no matter who we're paired up with, we can work with them in some way or another, so we can get those links and get those extra points.
I don't know.
Well, and the other aspect, too, you mentioned working together, too. Obviously, a regional event like this, you got a lot of teams that you don't necessarily work with or necessarily see all that often at this point. So do you guys take advantage to try to network quite a bit as, again, trying to put yourselves out there, whether it be the flamingo on the helmet or anything like that, especially here, too, talking with these other teams?
Yeah. So of course, day one for the practice matches on Thursday, our main priority was what we call pit scouting, of course. So we just go around to each team, ask them about their robot specifically and what kind of drive, what kind of arm they have. And so just get the basic information about the robot, and then we go over to match scouting, try to analyze their games, try to see how many points their robots get. And then what we've been doing today is going around their stations again one more time before alliance selections, and then so that way we can actually get to know their strategy as well.
So we spent some time last night compiling and getting all our data from the match scouting and the first round of pit scouting. And we spent a lot of time today going around and focusing on the teams we think are good, the teams we'd hope would choose us, the teams we'd think about choosing if we were in that position. So it's this balance of who do you want to talk to, what can they do, can you work together?
Definitely the working together part is a huge thing, because they can be a really good robot, but if their strategy gets in the way of yours, then it kind of cancels out. Another thing that we kind of do that works out really well, this is a bit not purposeful, but it ended up working out, is our team colors. The neon pink makes it so that even the judges and all these teammates and everything like that recognize us and remember us. So it'd be many times that, going into regional, people already kind of know about us, and so going into competitions oh, I know you guys do this, and your robot, I remember it because it's neon pink, and it kind of sticks in the mind. And so everyone recognizing us definitely makes networking easier.
I was gonna say I can definitely tell because I can see the flamingos on your pit from here as well, so it kind of helps stop you guys too. But the other side of it too is that obviously today is Alliance Selection Day. For each of you guys, what's something in particular that you individually kind of look towards and look for in other teams that if you were selecting, what's something that you guys would individually be looking for in particular when it comes to teams?
Yeah, I mainly look for size of the robot and then efficiency of their grabber and arm as well. So then, because that way you can plan out a way to get the best amount of links, and then also if they're a smaller robot, which I've seen the ones that place higher are definitely smaller. That way, if they can be smaller and you can fit 3 of them at the end to hopefully get a lot more points with the charging station.
I think the biggest thing I look for is how stable the robot is, especially with this year. I think yesterday there were 15 different robots that tipped. So it's really watching how stable, because in the playoffs, you can't have that. You can't have the mess up. You just don't have the work room for it.
And like another thing I look for, a big thing that I look for is consistency, because you can have a robot that can like score 6 cones in teleop, which is good and all, but like 50% of the time it breaks down. And you have another robot that only scores 3 cones, but it scores 3 cones all the time. And I'd rather have that robot that can score 3 cones all the time, because in playoffs, you can't have that risk. And so consistency is definitely a very important thing when you're choosing.
And then last question for you guys, but obviously a big event like this, I feel like I'm underselling it, calling it an event. It feels more like an experience. And so for all of you guys, when it comes to regionals, what's something that is your favorite aspect of it as well, getting a chance to not only participate in it, but also be able to experience it as well?
Yeah. For me personally, I think it's the late night crunching on numbers just for strategy, just because it's kind of a nice way to see all the information that we went through and collected over the past 2 days. And that way, because it just makes us feel confident with the amount of data that we have.
My favorite thing has to be going through all the pits and seeing all the different ways people have tried to present themselves, because a team here is kind of a brand, and it's important to present yourself even with the flag waving in presenting. It's all really cool to look around and see people that have like these cool metal pits, or like ours, which is just made of PVC pipe, but still can see across the world. So
I'm pretty simple. My favorite thing is just watching the matches. I mean, look, like seeing your robot, the thing you've worked on for months, and actually seeing it work is probably like the best feeling I have, going to these regionals, because you're just super excited to be able to cheer on with your team. It's fun, it's exciting, and you're also, it's like a lot of tension. You're kind of like you're on the edge of your seat, seeing if you can balance that docking station and everything like that. But yeah, that's my favorite part.
All right, that is Team Bjorg, Team 2470. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Yeah.
My name is Jared, born and raised in Minnesota, and I'm a project director at Enbridge. Enbridge is more than a pipeline company. It's a company participating in renewable energy projects in Minnesota and abroad, and I'm really proud to be working here.
We believe a cleaner energy future is achievable. For over 20 years, we've been early adopters of renewable energy, and we're proudly committed to net zero emissions by 2050. To hear more from Jared, visit enbridge.com/Jared. That's JERRID.
All right, we're after the Alliance selection. Joining me now, we have 31-34, the Accelerators. And, guys, I know it was getting, close to the end there, especially, we were talking about it a little bit. When it comes to, that selection side of it as well, take us through just the thought process for you guys as it was kind of going on, especially.
Oh, yeah. So, we were kind of hoping to get, picked sooner. Because it went all the way down and then almost all the way back before we got picked. And so it was really stressful because we're like, oh no, we're not going to get picked, we're not going to get picked. And then it was finally came back to 4 and they said our number and I was just really excited, okay, we're in this, we got a chance now.
It's we have a chance to win something we've worked very hard for.
Yeah.
And, for you guys have done great work out there, especially here as well. Got a chance to see you guys down in Alexandria. You guys put in a lot of hard work into this especially. But, in this type of event especially, it seems like it's crucial to have that extra bit of teamwork there as well in this type of a game this year. How does the Alliance side of things, play into it a little bit more this year with this game compared to last year's as well?
I would say with this year, it's really good communication, like sitting down for like 10 minutes, going through who's going to go where, who's going to score where, which station, which side of the thing, who's going to go inside which side, so that we're not clogging each other up and wasting precious time. And it's just a lot of communication to make sure everyone knows what we're doing and we're not like panicked, waiting for them to get out of the way before we can get in and all that.
Like, especially this season, we have a new bracket. So, like, if you lose in the first round, you go back to the loser's bracket, and you can, like, work your way back up.
Yeah, I like that too.
I was going to say, having that opportunity to have that new life, even if you drop the first match, still being able to continue on and still being able to work your way up, does that give you guys a little bit of added work to be able to know the fact that you guys have at least 2 matches to be able to iron things out with the rest of your alliance there as well?
Yeah, I like it a lot better than last year because, like, if it was 1 against 8, like, 2 and you're done. Whereas this one, if you lose, you still get another chance and you can work your way back up, which makes it, like, way much nicer for like other teams to actually have a chance at like winning it rather than just being out right away and like you're done.
It's like when you get other chances too, like you can represent the hard work you put in. Like everybody's able to see that you guys work hard towards your goals.
And then last question for you girls, but when it comes to the alliance that you guys were selected into as well, how do you feel like you guys mesh with both of the teams that you were selected with? Because obviously I know you guys do your scouting, you guys do your homework when it comes to it. So how do you guys feel like you really match well when it comes to your alliances?
I would say we're pretty good. The one team is a good scorer and such, and we're kind of okay with scoring, but if they want us to play defense, we can. And such. It's just mainly that communication to make sure we know like who's doing what and all of those things.
With like our scouters have pulled up like information within like the last qualifying matches, and we're pretty good teams together.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Well, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing how you girls play out there, especially looking forward to seeing how your robot performs out there. Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks.
And that is the Accelerators of 3134 joining me here on the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show. Joining me now is Missoula Robotics 3216, and guys, I know you had made the long trip out here again. I know we talked about it. You guys working until 12:30 at night on your robot, especially for you guys getting a chance to be a alliance captain, that lead team, especially for the alliance. How does that feel for you guys, especially given the hard work that you guys had to put in just to be in here and compete?
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure exciting. I mean, we weren't really expecting to have a functioning robot when we were up at 12:30, but here we are, and we're an alliance captain, and it's so awesome just to be here and be part of that experience.
And yes, it's definitely a surprise for us, considering we didn't have our bumpers on until the night we got here. But it's great to finally be an alliance captain again. We haven't been one since our rookie year in 2010, so we're really proud of what we've been able to do in our short, compact timeline in the past couple days.
And I got to ask, too, because I'm always interested, when it came to, your guys' selections especially, what did you guys really look for when it came to, selecting competing teams and even some of your scouting department there and looking at what teams might interest you guys a little bit more?
Yeah, so we were looking into like cone pickup, especially because we have a really good cube robot and good cube programming, but less cone capabilities. We were also looking into a really good auto, which I'm sure Braden can talk about more.
Yes, we absolutely want someone that can balance in auto. And the other big thing that we're looking at is consistency. Are they able to perform well every single match? Are we seeing breakdowns? Are they inconsistent? And we are also looking, since we're at a higher seed, we're looking for the diamonds in the rough, or the teams that just got an unlucky schedule or had mechanical issues at the beginning and seeded low, and they were being overlooked by higher teams. So we would be able to come in and sweep them. And we're really happy with our alliance selection today.
And the other aspect, too, obviously, this year's game a little different than years past, especially. What major differences did you guys see from this year's game compared to previous years?
Well, to quote our team captain, the field is much more open this year, which allows for a lot more like rough play, essentially, like defensive strategies. There's also 2 different manipulative elements of the field, which make it a really good challenge for those intake systems.
And another major thing that we had to do differently than we've done in other pick-and-place games is have much better control over our manipulators' locations on the field. So we worked very hard this year in order to control that in software. In years prior, it was just under driver control, but we had to focus on the automation.
And the other side of it, too, obviously, you guys would know more than anybody here, really, but a regional event, you get a lot of teams that you don't necessarily get a chance to compete against and really work with, especially. So for you guys, what's your favorite part of these types of regional events, especially?
Yeah, I just love the networking aspect. Like there's a team here with like the tank drive, and that's just really cool. You don't see that everywhere, so it's just really fun to like get out there and get your awareness of all the teams and exactly where they're at.
And yeah, the events here, the robot designs are significantly different than what we saw in the Rocky Mountain region, where there it seemed that most teams were doing cubes, and here it seems like most teams are doing cones. So it was just a little bit of divergence in design there, which was great diversity to see in a different event.
And then the other side of it, too, obviously, you guys have had a wide range of emotions having to deal with the robot, obviously, coming in late. But, for you guys, too, how did that affect the strategy kind of for you guys as the days kind of came along, especially as well?
I mean, it's a little challenging to say exactly how it affects the strategy because each alliance has a different strategy component. So I'm not entirely sure, but...
For us, it was a matter of trying to fill the roles that we needed on each of our alliances. If our alliance needed a defensive bot, we weren't afraid to go play defense. In one match, we actually had our intake broken, so we just took it off because it was extra weight and got in the way. So we were able to fly around and shut down our opponents.
All right, that is Missoula Robotics 3216 joining us on the YourLiveEvent.com Robotics Show. Guys, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
That's going to do it. We're going to put a bow on our coverage here from the Great Northern Regional event here, courtesy of First. And as always, we want to say thank you to Enbridge for powering our coverage. But before we go, Jack, I got to say, I got to ask you, what's your favorite part been from this whole weekend?
Favorite part has honestly been seeing all the different answers to the same problem. The different design in the robots, the different mechanical abilities of each robot. Even if the robots look darn near similar, they function so differently. It's been really, really a treat to see. How about you?
I think you hit the nail on the head there because in talking with the Missoula Robotics team, they had mentioned the fact that, over at the Rocky Mountains competition that it was mainly focused on cubes, whereas here there's a lot of focus on cones. And so, a lot of different, like you said, different approaches has been interesting. And honestly, just the different amount of teams that have really been out here and the different locations. It's been fascinating to see, again, the alliance selection in particular, where seeing different strategic methods from different teams, whether it be, obviously accepting the alliance or, in the case of Gator Robotics, they turned it down in order to select some other teams that they felt more comfortable with and they felt more of a rapport with. So I found that fascinating, especially to see how that plays out. Every single thing in this entire weekend is strategy, and yes, especially for this kind of a game, too.
Oh, absolutely, 100% strategy. It's the name of the game.
Yeah, and I guess the other part of it for me, my other favorite part, really been the energy. I mean, just coming back in, even, first walking in and not even interacting with anybody, you just felt the energy in the building, and you felt like you were uplifted just a little bit. So many great teams and great dynamics, and I mean, hell, the mascot dance competition basically that went on in the stands right to the left of us, that was fantastic to watch constantly. I feel like the Trojan does more calisthenics than I think we see from most professional athletes. But, in seeing how all of these different fans interact, it's such and I know I say it constantly, but it's more of an experience than it is an event. Because
yes,
all of these fans, whether it be the light up foam sticks that they have out in the stands, everything like that, it's such an experience, and I love being able to come out here and enjoy this as well, but it's really been so much fun.
Oh, no, 100%. And that energy, it really does fill a space. This is probably the only time I realize how large an area we are in is when everyone is packing up and leaving.
Yeah.
At the end of the night. Everything seems super everything is right next to you, but then, things start dying down and things like that, and we're in a very large space here in Grand Forks, but man, with the energy, with the fans, with just the, I mean, I keep on using the term energy, but with just the pure energy, everything seems so small and so compact. I love it. It's great.
Well, you think about it, too. You say that everything feels so compact. This is a place where Kenny Chesney will go and perform.
Exactly.
Like, you'll get full-blown concerts that are just packing the arena, but there's so much stuff and so many teams that are packing it in that really make this feel filled. And whether it be, like you said, from the energy or from the fans and the teams, it's really been a fantastic event. And again, special thanks to First for putting this on, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastically run, does a great job with all of this. And, we want to say thank you to them for having us out here as well. And we also want to say thank you, of course, to Enbridge for powering our coverage as well. And for Jack, I'm Mac. We're signing off from Grand Forks. Thank you for tuning in, of course. Make sure you check out yourliveevent.com. Make sure you subscribe. Hit that notification bell to get to know when we go live as well. And, of course, make sure you stay tuned. And thank you for tuning in for our coverage of the Great Northern Regional event here from First in Grand Forks. I'm Mac Robinson. He's Jack. We're signing off.
Have a good one.